I made this clay cane back when the Barbie movie was coming out. I was inspired by that, and I was trying to make something simple that I could practice drilling into and sanding, because I have never done that before, and I had made those really cute orange earrings and the yellow daisy ones before that, and I've just been so terrified to actually drill into them. So these are my practice ones. And I had a really hard time preparing these. I made a bunch of mistakes, as you'll see. That definitely should not have happened. And I should never have rolled it out on this surface because it's not really non-stick. And I didn't think about that until after. I've used it for cutting pieces and measuring them, but I've never really rolled out anything on it, and I guess that was just too much. So then I decided I would bring out the glass panel that I use when I bake my pieces, and that was an even worse idea. The clay refused to come up. Even when I used my blade, it just adhered itself right back down to the glass, and it was very frustrating. I just peeled off all the pieces that I could, and I was determined to save this, so I brought in the silicone mat, which I really know that I should have used that from the beginning, except that I didn't want that blue background. So really, it's all on me, and mistakes were made and learned from. And I still really had a hard time even on this mat. I don't know if it was because the clay was left out a while, or if it's because I mixed translucent into it. Translucent can tend to be more difficult to work with and to condition. It also could be user error because it is me and I'm still very much learning. But I was able to save this, and I kind of like the way it turned out. So here I am taking a tool and I am just smoothing over any rough areas on the surface, any seams where you can see where the pieces were put together. And then I take my cutters and start working on my shapes. And picking out the cutters is one of the hardest parts for me. It takes so long. I go through so many different combinations, and sometimes I just get so overwhelmed that I just pick something and I know that I'll figure it out along the way. For this particular clay slab that I made, since I was inspired by Barbie, I wanted to go with something that was a little bigger and bolder. So I got the big ovals out, and I figured that I would cut out the center with something cute like a star or a butterfly or a raindrop, just to make them a little more fun. And now I'm just sort of arranging the different pieces to see which ones would go better together as a pair, matching up the colors as best as possible so that I can give them the proper corresponding shapes inside. I was also having so much trouble deciding whether I wanted the shape to be towards the top or the bottom of my oval, and I went with the bottom because I felt like naturally I would have chosen the top. When I originally started this project back in July, the Barbie movie was just coming out, and I really wanted to make something with the traditional Barbie pinks, but I didn't have a lot of that. And I really wanted to use clay that I already had on hand because I didn't want to wait. I ended up going with colors that I had that I thought Barbie could match up to a majority of her swim and pool outfits, which tend to be a little more bold and brighter than a lot of the pastels that she has in her everyday clothing. I then mixed translucent clay in with each one of the colors to give the final look a little more depth instead of it just being flat colors. I then rolled out each color into a log or a cane, and I chopped them up into rough little bits, basically just like you're dicing a vegetable. Then I take all the colors and I put them into a pile and mix them all up. I then put a small amount of liquid clay over the top of it and just combine them all basically into a long rectangle shape. You'll just keep squeezing and compressing the clay until it looks like how it did in the beginning of the video. Then you just slice it to your desired thickness and lay them all out next to each other, overlapping each one of the edges. After that, you can roll it out with a roller. After you've done this enough times to get an even thickness, you are ready to cut your pieces out. You don't have to have stencils. You can cut things out by hand. You could even make rough stone shapes. And after you cut out the pieces that you want, you'll put them on an oven-safe surface and bake them to the clay's instructions. You can bake them on a tile or a glass sheet like I have here. You can put them on a baking tray, parchment paper, or just any regular paper that's plain will give a nice clean surface on the back of the pieces, which is something that I wish that I had done here. I also wish that I had added more translucent to each one of my colors to give them even more depth. I also wish that I had used the silicone mat from the beginning. And those are the major things that I would change if I could go back and redo this. And once they're done baking, the next step will be to sand off any rough edges. And then I will work on giving them a shiny finish. And then I will drill the holes so that they can get the hardware to be completed. And when I'm working with these slabs, I try to use up as much as I possibly can. So I'm just going over it with some of these small shaped cutters to make possible charms or things like that. And with polymer clay, it's usable until it's cured. So nothing really goes to waste, even all the outer edges from the cuttings can be used. So there's really no waste if you can use your imagination, which is really great. And if you've watched this far, thank you. I hope to be able to have a new video for you soon with the next steps.